next couple weeks, and then we're going to take a break for Dad's Day, because Dad's Day is always a special day, and then we're going to finish up. So for the next 4 weeks, we're going to dive into a little bit of a series, and here's what this is all around. All of us as parents say something that when it comes to our kids, and they hear us say, they're like, oh my goodness, you've got to be kidding me. You know, you said that again, or she said that again. And then what ends up happening is, because younger people, you don't understand this yet, but one day, you're going to get older, and all of a sudden, you're going to say that one thing. Or you're going to say those two things, and you're going to tell yourself, I told myself I would never ever say this, and yet here I am saying it. And you're going to call mom, or you're going to call dad, and you're going to like confess to them that I was a terrible child, and I realized why I was such a bad child, and how did you put up with me for all these years, and I can't even believe you're still breathing, your heart is still pumping, and all those other kind of things because of the torment that I put you through. And let me tell you this just right now. Most of you guys really aren't that bad. Some of you are. Alright, some of you, your moms and dads, they deserve to hear that. But for the most part, you're really not that bad. I mean, you're here, so you're making the choice to be here, so that's a really good thing. But here's the thing that I say to my kids, one of the many dumb things that I say to my kids that drives them crazy. And I tell them this, pay attention, because you can afford it. And when you're younger, that means nothing. Pay attention because you can afford it. And over and over and over, I'll tell them, hey, pay attention. You can afford to. And even Deanna will say it at times too, pay attention, you can afford to. It costs you nothing. If you don't have to put any time in or any of those other kind of things, but at the same time, we all need to pay attention. And here's the thing, this is biblical. This is not something that I just came up with as far as it goes, as far as paying attention. But over and over and over, the Scriptures warn us that we need to pay attention. Now, I'm going to go through a couple different verses here today. I'm going to start in 2 Peter, so that you're all aware. You can write these verses down so you can go back and look at them later. But in 2 Peter, chapter 1, verse 19, this is what Peter had to say. He says, and we have the prophetic word more fully confirmed, to which you will do well to pay attention as to a lamp shining in a dark place until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your hearts. So what Peter is trying to say is this. He says, pay attention to the prophetic word. The prophetic word is the Old Testament. All of the writings of the Old Testament, because the writers of the New Testament had to use something that, as a basis to teach and to pass on to others. So what he's saying is the things that we have in the Old Testament, they're very important to have. That's why this Bible, even though it's 66 different books, is one full compilation brought together. Because it's so important to learn from the Old so that we can apply it into the New. Now when Peter was writing this, he was in a prison in Rome, and he knew that he was heading to his death. Peter was one of the people that was most likely not only tortured, he died on a cross upside down, but he was probably set on fire after that by Nero. And he knows he's going to his death, and he is okay with it. Why is he okay with it? Because he lived his life in such a way that he learned, even through all the struggles, even through denying Christ, even through everything that he did wrong, that at the end of the day, that when he was paying attention, because he could afford to, that God was showing him something different. And so we need to, in our lives, learn to do that same thing. Because as he says, when you do this, you'll be as a lamp shining in a dark place until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your, where? In our hearts. So it flows through us. And what comes out of our heart comes out of our mouth. And what comes out of our heart comes into the actions of our personal ministry, into reaching people. And so Peter gives us warning. He says, listen, you've got to use all of this, but here's the thing. It's something that we choose to do every day. Recently there was an anniversary that took place, or a birthday that took place that many of you probably don't even know about. But on June 1st, CNN became 35 years old. But what most people don't know about CNN is that when that station started, they were the only all-news station out there, 24 hours of news a day. And so Ted Turner, who's also the guy for WTBS and TNT, which we also watch at times, here's Ted Turner, and he was launching this station that was going to be news. And people said, you're crazy. He's like, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to give everyone the weather. We're going to give everyone the financial report. We're going to give them the breaking news of the day. We're going to share this over and over and over and over. And it's going to be the news. But here's something neat that he did. He said, we're going to play the national anthem one time. We're going to play the national anthem one time. And it's going to be when we start this station. And then we're going to go out and we're going to cover the news 24/7, 365, or on leap years 366 until the end of the world. And we're going to cover it all the way until then. And when the end of the world comes, we're going to play a song. And the song that we're going to play, so I don't screw this up, is Nearer My God to Thee. This is Ted Turner. He knows that when this world, so if you go in today and you turn turn on CNN, this would be a great prank, by the way, if you could ever come up and figure out how to do this, and they hear "Near My God to Thee," the reflection, whatever it might be, but if you go in and you hear that, you know that the world is coming to an end. They've got the entire thing planned out. But what he didn't plan for was that all of these other stations would start taking the attention away from CNN. And now it's CNN and MSNBC and CNBC, and we can pick station after station after station after station. It used to be there was 3 stations we watched, then there was 13, then there was 50, then there was 100. Now there's thousands of stations. And what these stations are doing is they're taking our attention away from what is important. They're taking our attention away from God and pulling that attention to everything that we do all the time, and it's noise, 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 noise. Now this week my kids didn't even know this, but I was just doing a little survey on them, and I was watching. And this happened, and I'm not, just so you know, this isn't just kids. This is a lot of us as adults too. But I went into a room, in the back room, and we have a treadmill that's in the back there, and so we maybe you turn into a couch. So there's a pad thing, and there's pillows around it, the kids lay on it, because I don't know why it's more comfortable that way, so it became the couch next to the couch. I don't even know how to turn the thing on for the most part. Deanna does, because she uses it, but for the most part, none of us do. It's a piece of furniture. So I'm looking in the back room, and there I have one of my children who is watching TV, but they're not watching TV, because they have their tablet sitting here that we got for free from someone from somewhere with an iPod that they're texting on, and my other child is sitting with the TV on, not watching it, with the laptop up and the cell phone next to them. So what is grabbing all their attention? All the electronic devices. All the electronic devices. How in the world can we even expect our kids to listen, our spouses to listen, for anybody to listen to anything we have to say when all this stuff has already pulled our attention away? So how do we do that? How do we get it so that we are paying more attention, as Peter said, to what God has to say as opposed to what the world has to say? Well, the news channels figured it out. They figured out that if what we're going to do is this, to keep you watching over and over and over, we're going to all of a sudden drop in with something, we're going to call it breaking news. How many people all of a sudden seen that? And you see the little thing flash up that says breaking news, what do? Oh my goodness, it's breaking news, we got to see what's happening. And then the thing flashes by and it says things like, Tiger Woods shot an 85, his worst round ever, as a golfer. We're like, that's breaking news? Are you kidding me? Kyrie Irving hurt his knee, he's out for the playoffs. I'm like, it's over, that's it, I'm not watching. And we'll watch over and over and over again, won't we? Or there'll be an earthquake, or there'll be a plane crash, or there'll be something major that happened. When the Malaysian airline went down here recently, back last March, and they've been looking for it, all of the news channels sent as many people as they could to try to help follow that search because they wanted to be the first one with that breaking news. And so CNN literally popped in at one point with a breaking news to keep their viewers occupied. And they went to the person, and they talked to the person, and they came out, and this is what they said. We just want to let you know that the breaking news right now is we don't have any news. Nothing new has happened. Back to you, Bob. And that was the breaking news, and we laugh about it, but as soon as we see that breaking news, boom, we're in, right? Oh, I've got to pay attention. Now, let's go back to our families for a second. If your son or daughter who wants you to listen to one another, or brother or sister wants you to listen, if they came in like this, they said, hey, breaking news, are we going to stop and listen? I got a D on my algebra test. You passed, right? Or you're a complete idiot, right? But you got that from your mom. No, you got that from your dad. We can go either way, but if they were to do that, breaking news. I passed government, I'm going to graduate. We'd be excited about that. Breaking news. I didn't get in trouble more than 7 times today. Oh, you know what? That's wonderful. But that breaking news all of a sudden stops us to pull us in. But over and over, we're so more focused on the breaking news, and the TV, and the tablets, and the iPhones, and the cell phones, and the laptops have our attention so much that we're not even focusing on the good news. The good news that we have as believers. The good news that we have, which gives us a place in eternity. So the good news is being overtaken by the breaking news. And the breaking news may be, we don't have any news at all. And with that good news in our lives, It's that good news that we can share and we should be sharing with everyone. So Peter's going to direct us to a couple different places. So 1 Peter 9, verse 19 is where we're going to start. And where we start today. I want you to turn your Bibles now if you can, if you haven't together. We're going to go to Hebrews chapter 2. Hebrews chapter 2. Hebrews is a very questioned book because no one is really sure who's written it. But at the same time, it's very much along the lines of some other writers, so they believe that they understand who the writer is. We're not going to worry too much about that. But the very first verse of Hebrews chapter 2 says this: Therefore, we must pay much closer attention to what we have heard, lest we drift away from it. Therefore, we must pay what kind of attention? Much closer. So not only is it paying attention, not only is it paying attention to what it is you're doing now, not only is it paying attention to the loved ones that you have, not only is it paying attention to the words that your spouse has to say, or the things that are going on in your children's lives, but we need to pay much closer attention because, as the writer says, to what we have heard, lest we drift away from it. Here's a tough time. Here's a tough part of the message. Here's a, oh, really? Did you have to go there? This week, how many different shows did you watch? How many breaking news came in? How many games? How many talk shows? How many, every time I'm driving, the radio is on to something that doesn't really deal with God, but it's this loud talker here, or this political guy here, and over and over and over. And we get so jaded by what the world has to say, what the world has to do, that our opinions start coming from those people. And none of them give the opinion to what God has to say. And what ends up happening, this is what the writer here is saying, is that when we start paying much closer attention to what the world has to say, we become more and more and more like the world. And we pay less and less and less attention to what the Word has to say, we become less and less and less like what God's Word teaches us. And guess what? We are all there. It would be easy to drift. The sun is out, it's nice outside, it's beautiful, we start to drift. I've had some people that come up to me and say, hey, I'd like to take the summer off, and I say to them, hey, listen, you started a month before the summer. Well, I'll take this month before and then a month after, and all of a sudden it comes half a year. And then I'll get back to God, and then I'll focus on God. There is so much more that we're spending time in all the noise around us that we're not spending time in the love that is before us. Why do we not spend the time listening to God? We don't because we can't hear Him. It's too loud. There's too many things that are going on. There's too many directions that we're going in, and we can't hear from Him because when He speaks, as His Word says, He speaks in a still, small voice. Let's turn to the Old Testament. We're going to turn to Jeremiah 13. Jeremiah was an Old Testament guy that if you were to break him down as to what he had to say and what he had to do, I want you to understand him. He spoke in what is modern-day Iraq. He was a preacher in modern-day Iraq for 40 years. And nobody listened. And over and over, he would go to God and say, hey God, no one's listening. And God said, keep sharing the Word, keep sharing this Word, keep sharing the Word, over and over and over. Because guess what, Jeremiah? I put it in you, and that's the only way that they're going to hear it. And so Jeremiah says this, verse 15, hear and pay attention. What does he say? Pay attention. Why? Because you can afford to. Pay attention. Be not proud. One of your versions may say, don't be arrogant. We get so puffed up at times that we're not listening to God's voice, and we think, I've got this. I know enough. I know what the Bible says. I've heard these stories before. I know these sermons over and over and over. I know that message. I'm living that message on and on and on, but we're not spending time hearing Him. Hear and pay attention, he says. Be not arrogant, for the Lord has spoken. Not John has spoken. Not the Bible study teacher has spoken. Not the small group leader has spoken. Not the person who happens to be the message giver that day has spoken, for the Lord has spoken. When is the last time that we have put ourselves on the back burner to listen to God and pay attention to what He is saying to us? And the answer for many of us is it's not taking place. We don't have time in our days. Our schedules are too busy. There's too many things that are taking place. Because when I ask you the question, what shows are you watching? What channels are you seeing? What noise is on before you? Because the example I gave earlier with my kids, which many of us can relate to, they weren't even watching TV. But when it was time for dinner, we came in for dinner, and this is the second part of the experiment, they put down the tablet, they put down the cell phone, they put down the iPod, they put down the laptop, whatever it might have been. They knew to put all those things down, and they walked into the room and sat at the table. And guess what was still going on? The television. It was still going on. It was a great show. It was just SpongeBob SquarePants, okay? Very religious experience, moving, all right, bringing to tears, sometimes laughter, all those other things. But that's what's going on the television, on and on and on and on. And so I stopped on them and I said, hey, go back and turn the TV off. So we can have the quiet while we are sitting there and having dinner together, or while we're spending time together. Earlier this week, I did the same thing to two of my other kids, and one of them had brought a friend over. And so that friend come over, the one had gone to bed, and so there was the friend, and they're going to give us away, they're two college students. And I went up in the front room, and I walked away from them purposely. I came up to study, and I was reading, and I wanted to see what they were going to do. Normally, most young teenagers would be there playing games, but an amazing thing happened. The TV went off. There were no cell phones. There was no laptops. There was no iPads. There was no iPods. There was no anything. And I sat down with two young men, and we talked. And we talked. And we talked. For over 2 hours, we sat there and just enjoyed another company. And I even said to both of them, you know what? People don't do this anymore. People don't just sit around and enjoy their time together. They don't just speak about the things that matter. And there were discussions around, this is a sport that I'm doing, and here's the goals that I have, and here's what I'm doing in school, and where's God in it? And here's where I'm trying to take that step, and here's the light I'm trying to shine, and what is it you're trying to do to make a difference, and how is it you're making a difference to your team, and what is it people can see in you? And all these discussions came out in different words at times, but these are the things that we talked about. And there was no noise anywhere to take it away from us. It did have to be 2 in the morning. So do we take 2 in the morning and then we wake up our kids and say, this is the perfect time now for us all to talk? Grandkids, I have we're going to bring all the grandkids in, wake up, I know you can sleep them for 15 minutes, we're going to talk now and have that perfect time. That makes little to no sense. Isaiah chapter 48, we're going to turn to next. This is the final verse of the day. Isaiah is what's known as a prophetic teacher. It's just the book that's a little bit before Jeremiah. But in chapter 48, he gives us the insight, the step that we can take. Because you've got to ask yourself a question, and I have got to ask myself a question. Here's what we're going to do. You ready? Can I have your attention? See how everyone look? Can I have your attention? When speakers come up and when they say that, people will stop. Can I have your attention, please? There's an emergency here. Can I have your attention, please? I need to send somebody to kids home. Can I have your attention, please? There's someone outside who needs some help. Can I have your attention? Can I have your attention? Over and over and over. The TV, the internet, whatever it might be, the noise, the music, over and over and over. It's saying to you, can I have your attention? And this is God's way of saying, can I have your attention? In Isaiah 48, verse 18 says this, oh, that you had paid attention to my commandments. Oh, that you would put away everything. Oh, that you would just stop to listen. Oh, that you would have spent time here. Oh, that you would have realized it's so much more important for you to be a mom or a dad or a husband or a wife or a brother or a sister or a friend or a co-worker that is kind, because life can change in an instant. And oh, as you just paid attention to the commands that I have given you, not for the rules, not for the tradition, but because I love you. And I care for you. Oh, you would have listened to these commands and you would have paid attention. Then, here's the next thing what he's saying to us. If you followed along these commandments, if you spend time in his word, if you would love others as we are loved, this is what comes from it. Then, the very next thing, your peace would have been like a river. Anytime that there is a river that is in the Bible, that means 2 things. One, it brings life. The Garden of Eden was along 2 rivers, and there was life along it. Anywhere there's a river, there are things growing around it. There is life. If you were to go to Egypt along the Nile River, that's where most of the people live, because there is life there, and it brings life. And the other thing about a river is it never stops flowing unless it hits dry season after dry season after dry season until it dries up. Can I have your attention? The more that we walk away from the commandments, the more that we get caught up in all the noise of this world, the more that we're in front of a tablet and a TV and a radio, the more our dry season will continue. The more the sun beats down and it dries us up until one day the river flows no longer. Isaiah finishes with this last part of the verse. He says, and, because there's a second part to it, your righteousness like the waves of the sea. Then your peace would have been like a river. It's going to flow constantly. And your righteousness like the waves of the sea. Who loves the beach? Oh, some of us just love the beach, right? My wife is one of those people who absolutely loves the beach. I love sitting next to her on the beach. And I hope that things will float up that I can run and see what they are. When the kids were younger, they think they're floating up. We saw like a jellyfish and a hammerhead shark and all the things that are going on. And then all of a sudden we saw a sponge. And I ran out of the ocean and I pulled the sponge. I'm like, you guys, this is something you're going to see. Look at this, check it out. And the kids came forward and they look like, oh my goodness, what is it? I go, it's a sponge. It's a sponge. I look, I'm not sure that's a sponge. And I'm like this. And I looked around and just in front of me was a little baby in a diaper. My father-in-law laid down was like, you are so dumb. And he's right, because I probably, sniffed first, right? And so now I've got a choice to make. Either drop this or do what dads do. I'm going to save this sponge, kids. We're going to take this out of the ocean. No, I didn't do that. Take it back on the lid. I was like, oh, you got to get me. They're like, it's doo-doo, it's poop. Yeah, that's what it was. From that little kid's diaper that was ahead of us. I was so excited. But that's what I look for when I'm on the beach. Because here's the thing with the beach. You paid attention to that in the video. Didn't have to get your attention on that story. But on that beach, those waves come over and over and over and over. And they wash up and they wash back. And they start again. Over and over and over and over. And through it, it brings peace. Through it, it brings calm. Through it, it brings us to a point where we realize that God put this here for a reason. And He shows us how strong He is. He shows us that He's not changing. He doesn't have to move. And He shows us that He gives to us over and over and over again. Bringing life. Bringing peace. And flowing through us. So here's your challenge for this week. This is not going to be an easy one. Because next week I'm going to teach how to shorten that attention span. But listen. Pay attention. You can afford to. Take a day. Take an hour. Take some time and shut everything off. Shut everything off. When Deanna and I go on a date now, we take her phone in case the kids need her, and I shut mine down. Why? Because mine goes off 10 million times. And I have to tell you, when we're walking away and I don't have that thing, it brings peace to our time together. We go and enjoy the time because her phone's not going off a million times. And it brings peace, and it brings peace, and it brings peace, and it flows. Now, I'm not telling you that and sharing that because I'm some kind of perfect rhythm out of bed. No. I was really bad at it for years and years and years. And every time that thing would go off, boom, check to see who it is next. But I believe our spouses are more important than that. I believe our children are more important than that. I believe our time together as family are more important than that. I believe the friends that our kids bring in and our neighbors that we live by are more important than that. And most of all, I believe that God is more important than that. And so when Peter started, he shared with us that we, from our hearts, that we can shine in such a way that people every single day can see that difference. And he said, pay attention. And Isaiah ended by saying the same thing, that we need to pay attention. Because when God flows through us, He flows to us over and over and over. And He is never moving. And He sets us apart when we give Him that time. So power down this week. Make yourself power everything down. And spend some time and be washed in His Word over and over and over. And over and over and over. And watch as it flows through your heart as you take it to others. Pay attention. Pay attention.